Prisoner wars from Vietnam.
From Vietnam, okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You know, they've pretty well shown their oats at that point, and the agency's real interested in someone who can keep their mouth shut.
Okay, and so what else in that regard?
In that regard also, and in what we talked about just a moment ago with the older agents, I think what's important is for us to think about today. Today, the director of the CIA is nothing more than a political position. You don't necessarily have a man with the background needed to run that agency, just as in the FBI. You don't necessarily have... I think our intelligence agencies are lacking leadership.
They have, ever since J. Hoover died, Gene, they have, ever since J. Hoover died, they have put judges. The only person they put in there was... And he did a good job, but they put these judges in there, and of course Louis Freeh, he's a former judge, but he's also a former U.S. attorney and a former FBI agent. But we had somebody on our show here recently who was able to document, and he claims he's documented, the fact that he was working a CIA covert operation in Long Island, New York. He's an FBI agent, 21-year veteran, and he found out that it was actually CIA, and he reported to his supervisor. Nothing, didn't even respond to the letter. And then he wrote to Congress, and do you know who his supervisor was in New York City? Louis Freeh.
That's right.
so of course, Louis Freeh became a FBI supervisor, resigned, became a U.S. attorney, resigned, became a federal judge, resigned, became director of the FBI. That was his little plum for keeping his mouth shut, obviously, right?
And that's right.
Yeah, that's the way they operate.
And if the people out there understand this, that an intelligence agency is no better than the small intelligence groups that are set up by each operative. That's what makes the Mossad such a successful intelligence agency in human intelligence, the fact that they have a community of people out there providing information, and they have set up, you know, the CATSAs, which are the actual agents, have set up their own intelligence network, each CATSA, and the same is with the American intelligence, U.S. intelligence, and it's no better than the individual unit intelligence group that each agent sets up.
Right. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. Time for a quick break. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report, no question about it. Gene Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent and Stu Webb, whistleblower. Gene, by the way, and Stu also, that FBI agent that tried to expose that CIA covert operation, not to the public, but through the channels, thinking he was, hey, he's an all-American guy, right? By the way, he was a highly decorated Vietnam veteran and was a lieutenant colonel in the reserve. He's now serving 30 to 50 years for supposedly sexually molesting a child. Isn't that kind of a kicker, huh?
Is that Mr. Taos?
Yes.
Yes.
You know about the case?
Yes, I do.
Were you involved in that?
No, I wasn't.
What do you know about the case?
You can bet he was effectively neutralized.
That was what they did, right?
That's correct.
Do you have any personal knowledge about the case?
Not direct, but indirect from friends.
Can you tell us about it?
Still active in the community. I'd rather not right now, simply because the people I'm working with and trying to write that.
Okay. Well, I understand. If I ask you any questions that are you don't feel like answering,
he's getting ready to go into the appellate level, and we have some information we're providing for that, and we don't want to...
Yeah, of course. Well, if I ask you any questions that are going to create any problems for anybody, of course, I would tell me it's not a problem for me. Let's move on over. And what about the MIAs and COWs, Gene? What do you know about that?
I know that in the late 70s, I was sent to Italy to infiltrate Yugoslavia and the communist bloc countries, the Bulgaria and so forth, looking for the possibility. We had received information early that there was a possibility of POWs, MIAs who were moved through Burma into this and sent to communist bloc countries to be held there. So we started looking, and I would report that every Monday I would have to go back to Aviano Air Base to the command and control center where we had a secure line, call into Washington Switch, and speak with the director. And report our findings. I know that we found two. Whatever happened to those two men, I don't know.
You found two that had been sent from Vietnam over into the Soviet bloc countries? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
And you don't have any idea what happened to them? Was it ever publicized? Of course not.
No, no.
You know Red McDaniel, who's the head of the American Defense Institute?
Yes, I do.
Did you report it to him eventually?
We sent a letter to Red. I did it out of prison, and I never received a return, but it doesn't mean I didn't get an answer. It just means I didn't receive it.
Well, you know how to get a hold of him now? If you don't, I do. I know him very well.
I think my wife has that in her on her computer.
About POWs, MIAs, I feel it's a massive cover-up. You?
Well, I know in Vietnam, the knowledge I have about POWs and MIAs as having been one, is I was tortured by a Red Chinese officer, and I'm very upset about the fact that our negotiations with the Chinese right now include land ownership in this country.
Well, you don't think it's a good idea for them to have part of the Long Beach Navy Yard?
I don't think it's a good idea for them to be outside of the mainland China, myself, but...
Well, after all, hey, it's time to close the show. I'm sorry. Hang on, folks. We got another hour.
Report.
And good morning across this great land of ours. I hope everybody's doing well. For those of you who would like to have a copy of this show, audio copy, you can call 800-205-6245. This is the second hour of a 2-hour show, Ted Gunderson Intelligence Report. I hope that you all heard the first hour because we laid the groundwork for the second hour to go into more detail. And for those of you who are just coming aboard on the station, I want to introduce to you Gene Tatum, also known as Chip Tatum, Gene Chip Tatum, who is a Vietnam Special Forces Air Combat Controller, 25-year CIA deep cover agent, and a U.S. Army pilot flying classified missions during the U.S. invasion of Grenada. Iran-Contra pilot flying cocaine shipments labeled as medical supplies, and it goes on and on. I'm reading from an article in the Nexus magazine out of England, and also we have as our guest today Stu Webb, who is a whistleblower in connection with the Iran-Contra, Silverado Savings and Loan scandal in Denver, the Denver airport, and the HUD scandal. Welcome to the show, Gene and Stu.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Ted.
For the second hour. In the first hour, folks, those of you who may not have been in on during the first hour, Gene primarily gave us a little background of Pegasus. Is that how you pronounce it?
Pegasus.
Pegasus. What does that mean, by the way, Gene?
So that's the winged horse of folklore.
Okay. And he was a member of Pegasus, which is an organization within the CIA that spies on the spies in the CIA and tests them and so forth. By the way, how did Ames ever get away from you?
Pardon me?
How did Ames get away from you?
I have no idea. Because they took me out of it.
Whoever was checking on Ames, spy on spy, did not do a good job.
Somebody needs to check on that person, that's for sure.
Well, hopefully he's gone. Not dead, but, he's out of there.
That's right.
And then Gene was telling us about Operation Red Rock, which was a raid on the Cambodian airport. And at that time, of course, Cambodia was our allies and our friends. We were just getting into the MIA POW issue. And Gene stated that in the late 1970s, he went to Italy looking for POWs. He heard that some of them had been transferred out of the Far East into some of the Soviet bloc countries. And he found 2 of them, reported back. We don't know what happened to those 2 POWs. Gene, those 2 POWs, was there a possibility you could have contacted their wives or something, or what? Do you remember their names?
One was named Hill or Hull. I recall that. The other, I honestly don't recall. A lot of years and a lot of names have gone past.
Well, I'm sure because of the huge cover-up on the MIA POWs, which I'm convinced of, and as Red McDaniel, who is the head of the American Defense Institute, he says there's a cover-up. I'm sure that our government did not notify the relatives that this Hill or Hall and the other individual were alive and POWs. Wouldn't you feel the same way, Gene?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think Hill was a pilot, a captain, I believe, or a lieutenant. I forget which service he was in.
Well, if anybody's out there that knows of a pilot named Hill, you think it's Hill or Hall?
I almost think it's Hill, but it may be Hall.
Name Hill or possibly Hall, call the radio station, and maybe we can help you out as far as your loved one is concerned. And then Gene was talking about, we were talking about a little upset about the Chinese coming in Vietnam by a Chinese officer, and Gene's a little upset about the Chinese coming in and taking over the Long Beach Naval Station. And you shop at Costco, by the way?
No. I've only been out for a week. I haven't hardly shopped anywhere yet. Publix.
Well, Costco is, for the benefit of the rest of you folks that don't know it, they're owned by the red Chinese. They're owned by the Chinese. I assume that they're red. You've been out for a week. You were in jail? Just got out of jail?
I just left federal prison. I spent the last 2 years in federal prison.
And you've been out a week?
Been out just April 4th. I guess that's 2 weeks ago.
Well, congratulations. Where were you? Where did they have you stationed?
I was stationed at Jessup.
And where's that?
Jessup, Georgia, is in southern Georgia.
Southern Georgia. Is it a country club or is it a 1 or a 6 security?
It's both.
1 to 6? All?
They have it all there.
Yeah, depending on where you... What do you mean, see what the feds can do?
See, to look at the prison system as a
model?
Yeah, sure. That's one of the model units.
Well, how did you get out?
We had appealed initially. Actually, after the conviction, I was charged with treason initially, and told by 2 Secret Service agents that if I didn't give up the documents that I had in my possession, that exposed all the Iran-Contra drug running and who was involved in it, that I would be charged with treason and spend life imprisonment if not given the death penalty. And I said, well, let's dance, boys.
Oh, the Secret Service is in on it now, huh?
That's correct.
Well, how did they get in the act? I mean, everybody wants to get in the act. Isn't that what Jimmy Durante used to say?
I believe that they represent one of the people that are in the flight plans.
That being who, Bush?
Bush and Clinton, yes.
Okay. And we're going to get into more details about the drug operation, but when were you charged with this crime?
1995.
And 2 Secret Service agents, you care to mention their names?
No, I won't get into that.
Okay.
Only because I can't. I don't know their names. I know that they
well,
were
that's
there.
all right. If you don't want to mention names, just tell us. So
they
2 Secret Service agents came to you and said, give up your documents or you go to jail or maybe life in prison or maybe they're going to 10-7 you, meaning put you out of service forever. And you said, let's dance, and what happened after that?
I published those documents.
Good for you. That's why you're alive today.
That's correct. Well, no, I published the documents that only go as high as Mr. Bush. There's some people who we collected goods on for a retirement, myself and other members of our group, and keep those tucked away. And I think that's really what keeps us alive. We intend to go forward with this information on Bush and his underlings.
Now, wait a minute. So the second group of documents relate to Clinton?
No, the first group of documents relate to Clinton.
Okay, we'll be right back, folks. Time for a quick break. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. Okay, and we're back, folks. That was my guest, Gene Tatum, 25-year CIA deep cover agent, and Stu Webb, a whistleblower personified. And we have a guest on the show. Dan, where are you from? Hello, Dan.
Hello.
We have a caller on the show. Where are you from?
From Michigan.
Michigan.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I do. I hope it's in keeping with the theme of your program today.
Yeah, we're going to try to do that. Yesterday I got off on North Dakota, kind of blew the show, to be honest with you.
My question is of extreme importance to me. Do you know of any information or anything about the viewpoint of these people regarding the Christian community? And if so, based on their viewpoint, do you know of any plans that they have involving the Christians?
Good question, Dan. How about that, Gene?
Can you define a little bit more your Christians? If you're talking about Christian patriots, yes, they have definite plans. Militias, yes, they have definite plans.
Well, in particular, I guess in general, I'm talking about just the Christian people, the people who would stand up and say, no king but King Jesus. I'm not going to submit myself to your evil empire, things like that.
No, I don't have any information on that. I know that they're very good on the neutralization side at separating those who claim that they would die for their country and die for their beliefs. But to be honest, there are very few who would actually go to jail for their beliefs. That's what we found in the past as we work with this and with the prisons. You know, there are relatively few who will stand up against the power of the federal government in the law enforcement agencies with fear of going to prison.
No, they'll back off rather than go forward if they're threatened to go to prison.
Right.